this telethon and our Spark programming provided me with a very special opportunity to draw attention to a philanthropist who has made a very big difference in my life and in the lives of so many other people, and arts organizations, performance organizations in our region. His name is Terry Haller, and we're going to have the privilege of listening to him talk about his commitment to the arts, his feelings of the importance of the arts, and his own experience with his mother's struggles with memory loss, and how important music was to her and her quality of life.
That's right. And that will be followed by, what is it?
DeVita, APT.
I thought you would be excited to say that. That's why I didn't want to say it.
No, thank you. Yeah. Well, Terry and I are huge fans of APT and their work. So the pairing of these two segments is a real treat.
Enjoy.
I'm Terry Haller. Well, I am a quite long retired local businessman. I'm from Los Angeles. I came to Wisconsin in 1970 to go to grad school, and graduated from the university and ended up staying in Madison and eventually got into business. Well, the arts are one of the fundamental things that characterize humanity. The arts have been universally associated with people going back tens of thousands of years. Art kind of speaks to a different part of your brain. I'm used to dealing in a lot of my day-to-day life with my prefrontal cortex, which is right here. And that's how I plan things, how I add things up and go through things. I mean, I'm a mathematician by training, and so I tend to think algorithmically. That's not how the artistic sense works. There you're dealing with much deeper levels of your midbrain, your amygdala, your hippocampus, and other aspects that really are human. The fact of the matter is the very deepest level of our soul is not the prefrontal cortex. It's the inner parts of our emotional brain that really kind of make up, our feeling of beauty, our feeling of art, our feeling of spirituality, and that's important. I think art is a type of thing that has a real strong universal appeal. And there's virtually no civilization in the world that doesn't have the arts. This tells me that the arts are really fundamental to our humanity. I credit my piano lessons to really getting involved in music, and then from music it branched out into an interest in other parts of the arts. But I think that education, if you go to the average, let's say, symphony concert, and you look at the audience, I think some incredible number, like 90% of the audience, had music lessons when they were young. So this is an example of where the arts and arts education help to foster a love of the arts, which continues throughout your life. Well, I think the arts have been working hard to try to be more inclusive. I've seen over the last 10 or 20 years where we've really tried to reach out into other parts of the community. I think we still have a long way to go, but I do think we've made some real progress. My mother, Topsy, to whom I was very close, and who was beloved by just about everybody. She died in late 2019 at the age of 96. And after she got into her 90s, she started to decline mentally. And, eventually it became impossible for her to continue to live at home. She had started to develop dementia. And in about 2015, I decided that one of the things that would be most meaningful and helpful for my mother would be to provide her with a ready source of music. My mother has always been very musical, particularly musical, although I think when you're looking at people with dementia, music, whether or not they've been that interested in music during their life or not, I think music has an amazing salutary effect upon such people. My mother was in a situation where she had loved music, would frequently be found singing spontaneously, and so this fit very naturally into her persona. She was born in 1923, and during the war years, she was listening to the Andrews Sisters and Frank Sinatra, and so forth. And she even made it into the period of Elvis Presley and, all of that stuff. So I went through all of those decades, and I looked up what the most popular 100 or 150 songs were in each of those periods. And then I would run that by Mother. She'd be sitting there and I'd say, "Do you know this song?" And she'd say, "Sure." "Do you know this song?" "Sure." She seemed to know everything. It was amazing. And she knew the words. So then I'd look it up on YouTube and find what I thought was the famous version. Then I went to a program that would extract that YouTube and turn it into an MP3 file. But when I was done with this process, I had 300 songs, and these were my mother's songs. Well, this was a tremendous thing because she loved this music, and I would listen. It had about a 10-hour cycle. I would sort of go crazy because after 10 hours it would start repeating. But because she had dementia, I don't think she minded that, and so it really, I think, enhanced the quality of her life. And I think something like that would be a great thing to use for other people. And I recently looked back to see what the last picture that I had of her was. And in fact, it wasn't a picture, it was a video that she did of herself singing a song. And I think that her singing helped to elevate other people as well, because people were delighted, thrilled really, to see how much music meant to her. And I think that enthusiasm spread to others as well. And what was even more amazing to me was that she would learn lyrics while she had dementia. Usually she could learn absolutely nothing. That's the biggest single problem with dementia, is people can't learn things. And that's bad because there are many safety-related things you need to know, like use your walker. My brother and I actually, in an attempt to make her remember to use her walker, which she never seemed to do, we made up a song about using your walker, and we just put the words in there, use your walker every day. And she kind of learned that, and I think it helped her to use her walker. I think that music can be immensely useful, and because it has more or less universal appeal. Well, I've known, Arts for All long before it became Arts for All. I think it's a great organization, and it's important to reach out to a part of our community that's really maybe not otherwise reached and is underserved. And I like what Arts for All is able to do for people with disabilities. I think it's fantastic. I know other people that support it are very excited about what the organization is able to do, and I think there's a lot more possibility that they're developing. I mean, the sky's the limit, really, and so I'm very happy to be a supporter. Are we done?
I think so.
Okay. Bye.
Hi, my name is Jim DeVita, and I'm honored to have been asked to support Arts for All Wisconsin. I'm sitting in my office here. I have a little office built in my garage, an old carriage house at my house, and I'm sitting in my office. Got a bookshelves behind me. It's a tiny little office, but I love it. And I'm going to do a piece from a play called Sir Thomas More, which was actually banned about 400 years ago for political reasons. It was written by 3 different authors, one of whom happened to be William Shakespeare, who collaborated on the play. And this speech is actually the only speech that we have passed down that is actually in Shakespeare's own handwriting. So I'll give you a little context for when this speech happens. There's a riot in the streets of London. There's chaos. The native Londoners, they've come out and they're rioting to have the immigrants removed from their country. They're afraid that the immigrants are taking their jobs and causing trouble in the streets. And there's a huge riot, and they're all screaming for the immigrants to be removed, the strangers, as they call them. They call them strangers. And they want them removed from their country. And so Thomas More comes out to try and quell the riots. And this is what he says to them. Grant them removed, and grant that this your noise hath chid down all the majesty of England. Imagine that you see the wretched strangers, their babies at their backs with their poor luggage, plodding to the ports and coasts for transportation, and that you sit as kings in your desires. What had you got? I'll tell you. You had got how insolence and strong hand should prevail, how order should be quelled, and by this pattern not one of you should live an aged man, for other ruffians, as their fancies wrought, with self-same hand, self-reasons, and self-right, would shark on you, and men like ravenous fishes would feed on one another. You'd cast out strangers, kill them, possess their houses. Say now the king should do as much to you for your great trespass, and was but to banish you. Whither would you go? What country, by the nature of your errors, should give you harbor? Go you to France or Flanders, to any German province, to Spain or Portugal, nay, anywhere that adheres not to England, why then you must needs be strangers. Would you be pleased to find a country of so barbarous a temper that would not afford you an abode on earth, but spurn you like dogs? How would you feel to be thus used? This is the stranger's case, and this your mountainous inhumanity. Thank you so much for being here today, and please, if you can, please support Arts for All Wisconsin in any way that's possible, and spread the word. Thank you very much.